Want to make this one short because I don't want to do too much editing on it. However, I believe this will be somewhat evergreen of a video. So if you're watching this in 2, 3, 4 years, either I look like an idiot or most of the things I'm saying during this video still hold up. And that's why I'm making it, because I believe they will hold up. And it's videos about an answer to a question or like an idea that I always see tweeted out whenever a movie that's not a superhero movie does well, or when a superhero movie does poorly at the box office. It will be something to the effect of like, and this was big this week because John Wick 4 made a lot more money than Shazam 2 in Shazam's second or third week. I think it's second week. And people say, oh, you see, this is it. Things are starting to shift. The superhero movie bubble has popped. Superhero fatigue has set in. And, you know, it's finally over. And I don't think that's true. Like, I just, right off the bat, I think that's not true. It could be true. Like, that could be happening right now in everyone's brain. Like, that we all could feel superhero, or at least a lot of people could feel that fatigue, and maybe that is going to affect things in the future. However, that example that I just said, or any of the examples that usually come with it that have come so far, at least, just don't hold up. And they are not serious. They're not, like, if someone tells you that, and they say, John Wick did really well, Shazam 2 did really poorly, superhero movies are done, means one of two things, as far as I can tell. One, that person really wants superhero movies to be done and is looking to find any example they can. Like, and there's a lot of people, serious film people I like and respect, who just don't like superhero movies and want this to be over. And I don't like that, but a lot of those people do end up sharing those, you know, ideas, and that sentiment is like, it's finally over. Yeah, let's be done. Then there's the second group of people that could be saying that, people that just didn't think about it for more than a second. Because, like I said, a John Wick movie doing well and a Shazam movie doing poorly could be a sign that superhero movie fatigue is set in. However, if you wanted to prove that, what you would need is a Shazam movie that is good and a John Wick movie that is bad. And those two things would be like, see, the Shazam movie should be doing well because it's good. Those movies are somewhat popular, at least popular enough that it's like making a sequel made sense, and it's still performing poorly. And this John Wick movie that, you know, it's not that great. It's substandard in certain, you know, ways you could judge it. Maybe the effects aren't good. Maybe the acting's not good. Maybe it's boring, whatever. It's performing well, even though it's critically very bad. That would be a result that I'd be like, wow, you know, that really is, they've done the best they could, and maybe people just don't want to see these movies anymore. That's not what this is. The Shazam movie is not very good. It was reviewed very poorly, and lots of people saw it and didn't like it. It is the sequel to the Shazam movies, which I believe the first Shazam movie, if you count Birds of Prey as a somewhat sequel to Suicide Squad, which is kind of like a Harley Quinn origin, which that's maybe not the best way to describe it. But if you do, Shazam is the lowest opening, like, salvo for a DC movie, right? A Shazam 1, no other one has done worse. Like, Suicide Squad did better, Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Aquaman for sure. So saying that the worst performing DC, like, franchise with a not good movie that people don't really like bombed. And then on the other side, saying John Wick, a very popular, very well-liked franchise, led by one of the nicest, most likable guys in Hollywood, that is a very good, well-put-together, solid, rock-solid action movie. You know, I don't know if it's my favorite. Honestly, the first John Wick is just my favorite. That's how kind of I just prefer like the simpler, I like the more grounded elements of the John Wick franchise where he is like a guy that can be shot and has to jump underwater to avoid being shot, as opposed to this one where you can stab him 50 times and he just goes, ugh, and then like walks away. But either way, John Wick 4, very popular, very, very, very liked, and a franchise that people really like, starring an actor people really like, and that movie's doing really well. That tells you nothing. That is not like that does not give me any new information that I didn't have before. Yeah, movies people don't like aren't going to make a lot of money. Movies people do like are going to make a lot of money. And the fact that Shazam came after Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania maybe could tell you something as well, except they weren't made by the same studio. So it's not like they're two Marvel movies in a row that bombed and people didn't like. And Ant-Man and the Wasp is also Marvel's worst franchise that's had more than one or two of these, right? Like, I would say it's the one that people usually cite as kind of the low bar for these. I don't think the Ant-Man movies are very bad. In fact, I really appreciate Ant-Man 2 and Ant-Man 1 after this most recent one. But the fact that the Ant-Man movie, the third one of those that people did not like, got reviewed poorly. The fact that that bombed too also really doesn't tell you anything. What you need, and this is for all the people that say this all the time, everybody on Twitter that says superhero movie fatigue is real, this is what you need. You need Guardians 3 to come out, and it is a sequel to a very popular, very well-reviewed, very liked franchise, and you need it to be good. You need it to be reviewed very well. People that see it love it, and it bombs. That will tell you that superhero movie fatigue is a thing. Movies that are bad, that people don't really like, bombing is just how movies work. And also, like, it's such selective. Whenever people do this, it feels very Chicken Little, Sky is Falling, or Boy Who Cried Wolf. Chicken Little's probably a better explanation. Because, like, if you just say Marvel, right, people say there's Marvel fatigue. Okay, well, then you want to look back maybe 2 or 3 movies to see something, to see some pattern. Okay, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Bombed, unpopular, not very good. Definitely my least favorite Ant-Man movie. One of my least favorite MCU movies. What was right before that? Oh, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Very popular, very well reviewed. Not as well reviewed as the first one, but like very well reviewed. And under the circumstances, I think we kind of understand what some of the difficulties were that may lead this to being not as together of a movie as the last one. But even beyond that, one of the top 5 highest grossing movies of last year, and generally a pretty big hit. Look back, another one, you got Thor: Love and Thunder. I think the reviews on that were more mixed than either of these last two. Still made a fair amount of money. People still kind of like parts of it. And then you look back again, Doctor Strange, pretty well reviewed, made a ton of money. Another one of the 5 highest grossing movies of last year. So, like, I just don't see any trend. I see people, I understand when people say I didn't like any of them. If someone says that and they're like, I think I'm done with superhero movies, sure. But if you're going to say this is some industry thing, if you're going to say, like, this is superhero movie fatigue, the bubble has burst, you're going to have to give me a better example than that. And maybe by the end of this year, we'll have it. I'm so curious about the Flash movie, because if the Flash movie is great and it bombs, I think there's still a case for superhero movies, but I think there's a lot of specific things about that movie that people don't really like. But I think if Guardians 3 is great and it bombs, maybe they're onto something. Maybe there is superhero movie fatigue. And then after that, you've got the Marvels, you've got Aquaman, you got Blue Beetle, Kraven. There's a Kraven movie coming out this year. So we've got all manner. This will tell us everything. If the ones that are good perform well and the ones that are bad don't, and that's like what you can look at, just bad movies. We have bad movie fatigue. Movies are expensive. You have to leave your house for them. And they come on the, streaming app, maybe, I don't know, a month, 2 months after they're released. Like Shazam, I think is going to be on streaming next week or a week from now, like a week from then. It's very soon. So the idea that that movie comes out, it's not very good, poorly reviewed, people don't really like it. And then they say, by the way, we're going to put this on streaming very soon. And it's like, why didn't it perform well this week then? It must be superhero movie fatigue. No, it's because nobody wants to go to the movies to see it. And that would be different if it was, say, Black Panther in this position, because people wanted to go to the movies to see that movie. So everybody out there, all these serious film people and unserious film people that want to go say that this makes some big point about superhero movies in general, I will say, I don't think it does. I've laid out what I think are the scenarios where it would make sense if a bad action movie does really well, it makes a lot of money, and a really good superhero movie, highly reviewed, bombs. Then there we go, we got something. But this just isn't that. I also think the only last thing I want to put in here is, I think the idea of superhero movies or comic book movies as a genre doesn't really mean anything anymore because of how different they are. People always compare them to Westerns because the Western is somewhat a genre that was very popular, and that popularity peaked, and then they kind of fell away. And every so often you get a new Western movie, Magnificent Seven, Logan, kind of, and like a lot of movies that are some sort of sub-Western, like subgenre where it's like it's a Western, but it's also sci-fi. Those exist. But in general, there's not as many as there were before. That bubble did maybe burst, although I don't know all the history of it, so it could be something totally different. I cannot imagine two more different genres, because like if you look at comic book movies, you've got movies like Joker. That is a comic book movie, and one that performed very well, even though I'm not its biggest fan, but like it did well. So a popular comic book movie. And on the other side, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. There is no Western. There are no two Westerns that are that different, right? There's like, as a genre, I can say there's a new superhero movie coming out in 2 months, and you don't know what planet that movie is set on. So like, I think science fiction is obviously the closest genre to that. And if someone said, I think sci-fi movies are done, the sci-fi bubble has burst, they would sound like they don't know what they're talking about, because that's just too popular and it's too broad. That means so many things. So I think in general, if people say the Marvel brand is like diluted, there's something there. Maybe like that's something that can be, I think that point can be made, but I do think Black Panther really makes that point tricky. Like, it makes it hard to say these movies don't matter anymore because that movie was very popular. And I think Guardians 3, and it's anything like the other two, which are probably two of the best movies Marvel has produced, if Guardians 3 is also a big winner, superhero movies are probably okay. Marvel's probably okay. I understand people not liking all the shows, and they're spacing that out now, so that will be different. But I just think, as an idea, superhero movie fatigue being proven by the Shazam movie bombing and the John Wick movie doing really well, like, if someone tells you that, it almost proves that they just want it to be true, but I would not say it is.